Today we're going to talk with Will Badley for you guys, so you guys can learn all there is to learn about PEOs and maybe why it should be something that you should be hearing a little bit more about. Brent, I'm excited to do it. You ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to rock and roll. If being a business owner and have been one for 25 years, my biggest regret is not hiring a HR company like Will and Andy have.
Well, my biggest regret is not knowing what a PEO was, but I know a lot more now. Hey everybody, welcome back to Grindwise. As always, I'm here with my host and your host, Brent and Earl. We're going to be talking about PEOs today. PEO is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and like we always do here at Grindwise, Brent, we brought in an expert today to talk with everybody about what exactly is a PEO. But before we talk about that, you got to tell her, but what happened at the casino this weekend? You called me up, you said you won $1 million, you thought you did, but what's going on?
Well, I wasn't very happy. Let's say that.
Okay.
So yeah, I went up and put a couple $100 in a Wheel of Fortune machine, and it went to I won the spin, where it does a spin, and cool. I'm sitting there and it stops, and then the screen goes black. And I was $1.76 million. I'm like, it had to have jackpotted. The machine said, nope, we're not paying this guy today. And of course, then I bring down the people from the casino. We have a conversation.
Did you bring them down, Brent, or did they?
No, I called them.
We've got to report to the machine right now. Somebody's freaking out.
No, I went and got somebody, and then she came over, and the machine tried to reboot like 7 times. And when it finally came up, it started to spin over again, and it won $40. And so there's actually the floor manager come down, and he's just like, it is what it is. And I was like, no, it's not. And so then I asked for the building supervisor to come in. Building supervisor comes down with security, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And because I'm sure you were pleasant and really easy to talk to.
It's probably not as pleasant as I should have been. But then I ended up getting escorted out of the building.
That's one way to avoid paying someone $1 million.
Right.
All I know is you called me and you said, I'm sitting at this machine. I got the spin. I think I won the jackpot, but the whole screen went blank. And I'm like, that's awesome. Do you know what time it is?
Well, I left there with $150 that they say is what I won. I asked them. They actually called me this week and they asked me if or told me what happened. And they actually go, well, they actually paid you $10 more than it was supposed to. And I was like, oh, whatever. Uh-huh. And I said, can I see that report? Yeah, come down and fill out the paperwork. And I said, I don't know that I'm stepping foot in that place again.
you actually, we're going to go ahead and give you that $10. Hey, our bad. Yeah. Welcome.
Well, when he first called me, I thought he was going to give me $100 or something, just because I told him I started the machine with a couple hundred. And then when it came back to life, it had 100 and then 150 or 40 or whatever it was. And anyway, long story short, I will probably not be going back to that casino. There are multiple around here. I'll go to a different one.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we might just have to kick Will out today and just go ahead and bring in some casino officials and talk to everybody about how you, too, can win on slot machines. Well, you weren't happy this weekend. I wasn't happy this weekend. I think we got like 6-7 inches of snow, and I moved down to Oklahoma from the great Northwest so that I don't have to see that stuff anymore. And
you know what? I shoveled my driveway and my backyard, my back concrete and everything. And then, I was so excited when I got it all done. It only took me a couple hours to do it. And it was wet snow, not like they're getting up in Kansas City where it's like snow, ice. So I was able to get it all off pretty quickly, threw my big torch heater out there to help stay warm while I was doing it. And then I come to your house and I had to park in the driveway and walk through, it felt like 3 feet of snow to get into your house.
Well, that's because you guys don't get snow. We get 3 feet of snow. I started laughing. There was an inch and a half on the ground. They said they called off school. Anyway, we can talk about this stuff forever. So like we always do here on Grindwise, we'll bring in a guest. We'll talk to him. Somebody's clearly smarter than you and I are as it comes to this. But frankly, Brent, you know a little bit about payroll. And I don't know necessarily PEOs, but we've talked about it in the past. You had a pretty big company with a lot of employees. What was the big preemptive reason, or what drew you to looking at things differently from the standpoint of what you've always done in business?
Yeah, I could, like you said, I had 126 employees in 4 states.
Wow.
I could do payroll in a couple hours. As I grew that company to that point of 126 employees, I thought, I don't have an employee handbook. I probably should. And so I had to hire a law firm, one of the most expensive ones here in Tulsa, to come down, draw up the whole employee handbook, come sit with the employees, paid them $15,000 to do that. And I will not, you can't even make this up. About 3 weeks after we had everybody sign that, I had a driver got caught filming 2 girls while they were loading a truck.
Girls?
They were college
They worked
age
for you?
Yep, college age girls that were my employees, and they called me and told me about it. And I was like, "Oh, great!" And we just put sexual harassment policies in place. So then I had to hire that law firm because we were, flying by the seat of our pants trying to figure out if we were doing things the right way. So I hired that law firm to come in and sit with us while we terminated that employee.
Oh my god!
And so I was just covering my bases legally,
right?
And then I found out that if you hire the right kind of PEO, all that stuff's built in. So I spent $20,000 that I didn't have to spend.
Yeah. So you spent $20,000. What would happen had you not spent that money?
I probably would have been sued
because of something somebody else did.
Yep.
Within your company.
Yep.
And so we've got Will Badley here today with us, and Will is an expert as it relates to payroll and PEOs. And we brought him on to Grindwise today so Brent and I could have a conversation with him just about life in general as it relates to business. Will, welcome to Grindwise.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are we?
Yeah, good. Appreciate you showing up.
Yeah, good to be here. Excited to visit with you.
So you're listening to Brent tell the story about a business that he had with 127 employees? 126 employees. He spent $20,000 on attorneys preemptively. Thankfully, he did it, but you're probably just sitting there going,
right.
What could you have done for him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a story I've heard 100 times, and it's a 911 that you don't really account for. And you're sitting here thinking, hey, I'm going to build a business. You're worried about your day-to-day operations. And the fact of the matter as a business owner is you don't know what you don't know, to no fault of your own. But a smart individual in that regard is going to outsource that to somebody who can kind of fill in those gaps for you. What we do as a PEO is we kind of step in and run a comb through your business to ensure that there's nothing in the closet, nothing that's going to come back to bite you. We're going to insulate your business from a compliance standpoint. Because unfortunately, in your case, had you not had that law firm, I don't know or I didn't know any better is not going to cut it.
Oh my God. Wait, we got to back you up here a little bit, Will, because some of the people that are watching this right now are going, I don't understand. What's a PEO? A PEO? PEO? Well, what's a PEO or a PEO? What is that exactly, and how is that different from a payroll company?
Yeah, so PEO stands for Professional Employer Organization. It is defined as a co-employment model. What that means is the federal government is going to allow you to utilize 2 EINs for the sake of your business. Really what we're doing within that model is lending you our EIN. That's going to give you leverage and advantages in terms of access to workers' comp, benefits, stuff of that nature, which you're not going to be able to procure on your own 2 feet as a small business. We'll still handle your payroll taxes, but the added component of us being co-employers with you is that, hey, if you were to get in trouble with that situation you shared with us, we're sitting at the table with you. Hey, we're in business with you. It's our obligation to kind of be your eyes and ears and ensure that you're protected. So we're going to do that proactively, opposed to your kind of oh crap moment where you had to go back and think, hey, what's going on? How do I tackle this? How do I put out this fire? Wouldn't you enjoy having the peace of mind knowing that's done for you ahead of time?
And that's our show today, Brent. Ta-da! Hey, I appreciate you guys joining us, and that's what a PEO is. I'm just kidding. I see you over there twitching because this stuff's going crazy.
I've got questions. So
lay it on them. This is how it works on Grindwise.
I still am a licensed insurance agent. Dealt a lot with work comps and audits and things like that. Now I've kind of got an understanding, but tell me about how you, as a company, will get a better rate than my company going out and shopping for work comp.
Sure. Brent, if you were to go to the local grocery store today, and I go to Costco, who do you think is getting better rates per pound or otherwise on?
Well, obviously you are.
Okay. And so when I mentioned previously leveraging the economies of scale, you had 126 employees in your business. Somebody out there may have 10 employees in their business. We've got 115,000 under our umbrella. So it stands to reason that when we go out and shop for workers' comp benefits or otherwise, our buying power typically affords us on workers' comp alone 20, 25, 30% savings on what you could do naturally just by being partnered with us in that regard.
So you're saying you have purchase power.
We do.
So you go out and buy in bulk. So a small business owner goes out and gets let's just say a $10,000 a year work comp quote.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh man, my work comp's $10,000 a year. But if they have a payroll company with the purchase power, that might be $7,500, might be $8,000. Is that right?
Correct. Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy when you think about that. I mean, workers' comp. So the trades. I mean, people are getting hurt and things like that. There's mod factors to come into consideration and stuff like that. How does that affect that, or is it more difficult for that roofer or that person that's in a higher danger scenario to work with your company, or is it an advantage to them because of your company?
Yeah, so to be transparent, there are certain industries that are higher risk across the board. So a plumber's viewed differently as a roofer. A roofer, you could be 25, 30 feet up in the air. A fall there is going to be a significant claim versus somebody who works in an office setting. Having said that, if we tie it back to the co-employment model, we want to be wise as a business to help the next 10,000 employees that enroll. If we bring in a high-risk policy and you have 10 claims this year that run us $1 million, that's going to increase our mod factor and adversely affect our rates as well. So we do vet out any business that we start to do work with relative to comp. But regardless, if you think, hey, your 10-employee business, if you had one claim last year, could devastate your rates at renewal. But with 115,000 employees like we talked about, that one claim is now a drop in the bucket. So it has less of an effect on the policy as a whole.
You know, I keep going back to my trucking company.
Right.
I had those 126 employees. We went like 9 years with no claims.
Beautiful.
And after we got to a certain point, we had all those employees. You're going to have claims. In fact, we hired people and they came in and they were I don't know what you call it. They're a claim junkie. They go company to company and just basically file claims. And so then all of a sudden we started getting claims, and I was paying them out of my pocket, so I didn't affect that experience mod.
Yeah.
And there was a certain point in time I said I can't keep doing this, and so then we had to start using the work comp. I'm going to ask Will a question. I don't even know the answer to this. Do you guys vet the employees to find those people that are work comp? You know, I guess I don't even know what you call them. Work comp junkies?
Con artists?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of homework that can be done. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't anticipate the next person you bring into the company is going to have that tendency. So there's some onus on you in terms of who you're hiring and your gut and intuition with that said. But I think the benefit is it's going to tie back to, hey, if we do bring in that guy who does start filing frivolous claims, it's going to have less of a damning effect on the total policy as a whole. So there's certain things in life you just can't account for. So not a perfect science in that regard.
Okay.
Huh. So I'm sitting here, I got this visual in my head of, 0 days without an accident, 300 days without an accident, and all of a sudden back to zero. Oh, man, got to start over that reset. But you said something earlier, Will, that it kind of piqued my interest for sure. I don't know if Brent picked up on it, probably, but we had an episode with just a while back talking about EIN and EIN business credit and stuff like that. Coming into this, you told me that there's a company that you do work with. I know you work within a lot of different arenas as it relates to this, but that actually reports credit, business credit,
Correct.
as it relates to payroll with the EIN. Explain that to everybody.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, statistically, about 30% of a company's expenses ought to be their payroll or their wages that they're paying out. And I equate it to like a FICO credit boost, if you will. They'll report your rent or your light bill or something to that effect to the bureaus, has a positive impact on that. And the thought is, in terms of enhancing your business credit tied to your EIN, if that's such a bulk of your expenses, call it $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 a month, imagine the impact that has when we report it to the bureaus as a positive impacting account. It's going to expedite you being able to enhance your business credit by way of reporting the payroll. And there's nobody else out there right now who will report your payroll to the three bureaus on your behalf.
Really?
That's awesome. You know what? Because what do I always say? It's all about your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay. the more access, the more money you can show you're paying every month, the more access to capital your company gets later.
Yeah, but do they have to already have good business credit to be able to get you guys reporting on this stuff?
They don't. The conditions really are, hey, having that established EIN, irregardless of how long you've been in business, that doesn't impact anything. If you go ahead and enlist in our workers' comp or our health benefits as well, we're going to report that. So that number could
as well as the payroll
exponentially grow. That's going to be your payroll taxes, your workers' comp premiums, health premiums across the board. We're going to report that positively with the assumption that a good business owner is not going to miss payroll. So over time, that's going to just show a repeated propensity to borrow and pay, like you were referring to there, Brent.
All right. So you just led me into my next question for you. First of all, I don't like PEO. I don't like that term. For what I'm hearing from you, you sound like you're my HR department. So when I talk to people, I say it's a full HR service. So tell me what all services you guys can provide inside of your company.
Yeah, in a nutshell, the core premise of it is, hey, we take care of your payroll. We administer that up to and including if you need timekeeping assistance or something to that effect. You'll have an HR suite, a digital dashboard where you can go in. It's a full service HRIS that's going to allow you to keep employee records, whether it be onboarding, sending out offer letters, going through the I-9 process. Once you're signed up, you'll have access to a dedicated HR business partner who, like I said, is going to run a comb through your business, be your eyes and ears, help you show you what you do or don't know and what you can do better. The benefits are obviously huge: workers' comp, health, dental, vision, short-term, long-term. So we're not necessarily looking to replace your existing HR infrastructure, but what we see oftentimes is that average employer out there with 20 or 25 employees, they don't have a dedicated HR person. It's the owner wearing an additional hat or that office manager who's spread thin. So we're going to better equip them to free up their time to focus on business or revenue generating activity. Let us take care of all things HR.
Oh my God, you're kind of freaking me out, Will, because I'm sitting here and go, okay, I'm a business, I've got 30 employees. This is going to cost a fortune to even do this. I mean, what do people just, I mean, do they just make tons of money and now they can afford a PEO? Is that the win?
No, so it's circumstantial from business to business. It can be considered an investment, but what we see oftentimes is whether or not you currently outsource like OSHA training or safety training, or you are paying for workers' comp, you are paying for health, or providing these ancillary benefits, we can create savings on one side of the fence and apply that to our model as a whole. So I think the stat is about 70% of the time we're going to be a net neutral cost, if not a small investment. But there's a reason we're having the conversation. You're obviously intrigued by enhancing your business credit. You care about protecting your business from a compliance standpoint. So it really equates to a win-win at the end of that conversation.
You know, so going back to, I talk to business owners every single day.
Oh, I know.
And when I tell them that, you know, my $6 million company, we didn't have an HR department. Everybody always thinks everything's going to come to them when they get to a certain size. You know, what he just said, I was wearing that hat. I was the guy. I was the guy that, you know, I went out and found the attorneys. I was the guy that did the employee handbook. I was the guy that did payroll. I was the guy that paid the taxes, the employee benefits. And that's basically was what my job was. I became our HR department. And am I skilled in HR? No, I was skilled in the business. So I never really knew I never knew the rules, the laws, all those different things. Having somebody on your side, especially if it's just a small investment. I mean, you guys heard me say $20,000. I mean, that would have probably paid for the payroll service for 126 employees, and I wouldn't have had to pay the attorneys.
He just said 70% of the time it's net neutral.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, Will, that just means like you're already spending X amount of dollars. By the time you guys come in, it's really not costing you anything else, but you're picking up all those advantages.
Yeah, in that regard, we do a really comprehensive assessment of your business and say, hey, where are you spending money? We can typically streamline or consolidate that into a single package within ourselves here. And yeah, if not saving you money, it's a small investment, but if it affords you more time in your day as a business owner or enhances your business credit or gives a better experience for your employees, those are kind of intangible benefits that come by way of doing this.
All right, so I'm a business owner. I'm listening to you talk, and I'm like, I've got to do it. I've got to call Will. So how do I get hold of Will?
Fairly easy. So through TJ directly, we've got an intake form. I'm accessible by email and phone. We're happy to include that with the podcast today. But really, what you're going to get when you engage with me is that consultation. I'll reach out to you, have a quick conversation to see if you're a fit. I'll let you know out the gates if you're not, or if it's not the right time for you. But really do a holistic assessment of your business, outline where those savings come from, what the end picture looks like. I can really walk you through the process and make it really seamless in nature for you.
I'm just curious. So we can't just call you? A lot of our guests just give out their number and just go, call me.
Putting the pressure on me. So I'll go slow here. My cell phone number, my direct number, which in theory you can reach me around the clock, is 918-701-9920. You can text me.
I recommend text, by the way. I gave out my number on several different ones, and my phone, I'll get text at 1 o'clock in the morning, just so you know. So be prepared.
I hear you. Do not disturb. We'll be going on.
How long does it take if we talk today, and let's say I have 30 employees? How much work is it on my side, and then how long does that take to get set up and going?
Yeah, so kind of a plug for the relationship so far. So since I've taken on the transition, every conversation I've had, not one person pushes back on the benefit of having their payroll reported to the bureaus to expedite the enhancement and the building of their credit. So the proof is in the pudding that it's a need, and we have a way to fix it for you, which is exciting. The process will typically take about 30 to 45 days to ramp up. From that assessment, we're looking at who you're doing payroll with currently, talking about a transition plan. But really, once you say yes and we move forward, which is the assumption within a conversation like this, it's an Excel document with some basic employee data. You get assigned an implementation coordinator who's going to walk you by it step by step. And it is a change. Change can be daunting, but we do this day in and day out. It's really a seamless process, and we'll hold your hand throughout it.
I got a fun question for you, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying, Brent. So you went all this time. You really didn't have any problems. You were doing a lot of work, right? You're wearing every single hat in the company. But then all of a sudden you run a situation, maybe I better get an employee handbook, right? So you spend $15,000 or whatever it is. And then something actually happens and you've got to pay them for that. But you're out $20,000, right? And now everybody's making claims and you're having problems, stuff like that. What happens with our company if I'm that guy who has 30 employees and I'm utilizing you? Do you guys just go, hey, man, it kind of sucks to be you, but yeah, if you figure it out, we'll be back here for you? Or what happens if problems come up in my company?
Yeah, so our support model is twofold, both proactive and reactive. So proactive is, hey, do you have a handbook? No, let's build one specific to your business and to your industry. Here's some watch out. Here are policies and procedures you're going to want to have in place. And then conversely, if something does happen, you bring that to your dedicated HR generalist, and we can give you counselor advice on how to handle that. And if it ever escalates to the point where if we told you, hey, do A, B, and C, and B somehow gets you in trouble, we're sitting at the table with you in the law of court to mitigate that for you and make sure that there's a damage control on the tail end of it as well. So it ties back to that co-employment is like we consider you a partner in business. We're obligated to stand by you and make sure you're doing the right things.
But did A, B, and C cost me what it cost Brent? Did I have to spend $20,000 to get you to do my handbook and all that stuff too?
No, our handbook's included in the inclusive fee that we have on a monthly basis, and certainly something that we can cover with you one-on-one. But it's an all-in-one solution, and because you guys have been nice enough to kind of build a partnership with us, our pricing for PEO is about 25 to 30% less than any other nationwide PEO in the country at the moment. Not to mention, like it's a nuts to bolts A to Z conversation that we're going to have with you at a pre-negotiated discount as well.
So when I talk to all these other business owners, and we may already hit on this, but I kind of want to drill into it a little bit. You know, I talk to guys and they're like, oh yeah, we use Gusto or Paychecks. Aren't those just basically processing the payroll for people? They're not really providing the full HR service, or do they have things like that for those guys? And I mean, it sounds like you guys are kind of like the one-stop shop for all this.
Yeah, definitely a one-stop shop. So whether it be an ADP or Paychecks, they do have an a la carte payroll processing only, but Mind you, at that point, they're not building you a handbook. They're not offering you HR counsel or advice. It's really a transactional process at that point versus a PEO is going to be more of a relationship or partnership than you're going to get with a payroll-only provider. And we would rather serve you holistically from A to Z, again, to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. We'd be remiss not to advise you on, hey, HR processes, your taxes, benefits, and so forth as well. So just a more comprehensive solution is what you'll get with a PEO.
So if we're looking at a high level bump, you've got to be sitting there going right now, man, I wish I'd had a PEO.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, whenever we first met with Will and Andy, I was sitting there going, what did I do? I should have hired it out. And you know what else makes this actually brings me another great question. So as a business owner, if you're wearing that hat, and I always did, whenever I went on vacation, I always had to take my computer with me to do payroll. So what kind of whenever there's what kind of connection point is there from, let's say I have my payroll, I don't have people on salary, people work different hours, people work different rates. Is there like just a form I submit to you guys once a week and then it's done? So instead of me sitting there calculating everybody's, payroll and everything, it's just simply uploading a document, letting you go. And so all I did was sit there and send an email.
Yeah, we're just looking for you to approve your time card. So whether you're doing a timekeeping service or manually inputting those hours, if you have an office manager doing that for you, our goal, you mentioned earlier, payroll may be taking you several hours on a given payroll week. We'd love for that to be a 15-minute conversation. And no two companies enjoy running payroll the same way. So we'd love to learn about those nuances of what your preferences may be. Do you want to shoot an email? Do you just want to approve it through your portal? Do you want to call your payroll specialist? We can work with you to make sure that payroll's not pulling teeth. It's just at the click of a button.
Well, that'd be so nice. I mean, Tess and I are talking about we're going to the Bahamas, and she's, I'm going to be gone for a week, but she's like, I got to take the computer because she does our payroll, obviously. And, we'd love to transition to a payroll company and payroll source, a HR, have that whole system in place. We're a little different. We are all 1099. So
yeah, that's true.
What's the difference in between doing 1099 payroll versus doing W-2 payroll?
Yeah, so there's some, like I said, nuances to running payroll. Traditionally, a PEO is going to seek to service W-2 employees, but because the need exists, we've gone out of our way to kind of create a process where we can also accommodate those 1099s as well. And I know that you're not going to have the same volume of 1099s running on a consistent basis, but when your payroll specialist knows how you run, or, hey, this is peak season, we're probably going to run at 50 1099s this week, maybe 10 next week, and that influx is going to happen, we can account for that. And what's strange or different about your business is pretty common to us. So once we learn how you go about your business, we can accommodate basically any situation for you.
I got a question on that. Got my wheels turning here. So let's just say I'm an insurance company and I have sub agents and they're all 1099, and I've got one that's really good. He gets a check every week, so I'm paying you a fee for that guy. What if I have one that's not very good and he doesn't make a sale for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Is that prorated back to me? Or?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be, let's say even at the onset of the relationship, you're running payroll for 25 employees. 6 months from now, based off org changes, you're down to 12 employees, or on a particular payroll, there's less than normal. We're not just going to bill at that flat rate. We're not going to make you pay for something you're not utilizing. So that the monthly or the annual cost is really going to be broken down into your pay period cost. And so when we run and see it's only for 10 employees this week, you're being billed at 10 employees, not 25.
Okay.
So I keep going back to this because it just blows my mind, the opportunity that's here. We know through building corporate credit on a business's EIN, they have to start like an infinite, right?
Right.
They're just getting started. They're going to spend $80. They're going to pay it. They're going to spend $150. They're going to pay it, and things like that. But some of the companies that I talk to, they're doing $100 million a year, and they've got business credit that's like $20,000, but they got a payroll that's about $100,000 a week. And if they started using a PEO with Will, that type of boom, that's the demonstrated ability to borrow and pay, right? You're borrowing people's time. You have a debt associated with that time. You now have to pay that. To have that reported, what does that do to their business credit?
Well, if you take the $100,000 a week, I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, if you're spending $400,000, if you're demonstrating you can spend $400,000 a month, if you building the credit profile, it may not happen year one, but continue to build that credit profile. If you're demonstrating that $400K a month, that's going to reflect, and you're going to gain that kind of access to capital. And it's a 12-time multiplier. So you take that times 12, then you take that. It's usually a 2 or 3 time of your annual spend is where you end up if you continue to build the credit profile on the EIN. So that's a huge benefit for business owners. And I know a lot of business owners that, he said 35% payroll. Today's day and age, it's getting closer to 65%.
Well, it's not just a huge, it's a huge miss if you're not doing it. I mean, we get asked that question all the time. Well, how do I build credit? Well, I don't need anything from Grainger. I don't need this. But you got to pay your employees.
Yep.
If you can have that reporting to credit, nobody else does that. Will nobody.
Nobody.
And you report to all 3 bureaus.
No, we saw an opportunity, and we've addressed the inner workings of that. So that is a differentiator. So yeah, beyond the HR support, the compliance, the benefits, the buying power, so on and so forth, at its core, if you're just wanting to build your business credit, to your point, Earl, huge miss by not reporting that aspect of your revenue.
Yeah, well, and you left out mitigating risk. But I mean, the fact that when Brent's situation came up and he had the handbook, but then he had to go, okay, now how do I fire this person the right way? And you got to spend a bunch more money. And as it related to workman's comp, you were touching on that a little bit earlier, but it sounds like this big risk mitigation. That's how I understand it for the employer. And as a business owner, we've owned businesses forever. That's what you're always worried about. You're like, what kind of situation does this put me into? People are litigious. It's a problem. Maybe just for the sake of the people watching Grindwise right now, talk about mitigation of risk and really what the bigger view is on that.
Yeah, so the simplest way I can put it, my favorite way to put it is, hey, I would imagine if you're out of town on a trip for business and your wife and kids are at home, you probably ensure the security system's on, the front door is locked, hey, honey, lock the front door, or whatever the case may be. When you're not proactively looking out from a compliance standpoint for your business, you're leaving the front door of your business unlocked to frivolous litigation, to attacks from folks who we talked about earlier have a propensity to want to file claims, or they're claim happy, or they're looking for any reason to sue you for harassment or otherwise. We would love to put those measures in place to give you that same peace of mind that a security system does or a double bolted front door does. Allow us to do that for your business. You've lifelong dream to start your business. There's an end in sight, an exit strategy, retirement, whatever the case may be. I've seen businesses go out of business, one sexual harassment claim, one wrongful termination, and hey, I didn't know any better. Again, it's not going to cut it when that lawsuit comes forward. Allow us to give you that peace of mind knowing you're protected from that standpoint.
Setting up running my companies that we've always ran, we never had, like I said, the HR department piece, and just thinking about, how lucky I was that I didn't get sued personally. But, going back to, you have 126 employees and you have a no fraternizing policy, and 4 or 5 of them are dating because you hired them together or whatever, so
right.
And just thinking about all the different things that can happen outside of even work that could cause that frivolous lawsuit, that you're standing there by yourself.
Well, you fire somebody in the wrong way, Brent. You fire, or they think it's the wrong way, and then they say that was a wrongful termination. Or, by the way, all of a sudden I have all these problems that were occurring in this business for a long time, but now it matters. So I was fine while you were paying me, and I had a job, but now that you're gone, now we're gonna sue you, right? And these are things that you deal with, Will, right? Like, are you in court all the time? Are you always on the stand? That's the question.
No, it's because we're proactive about these things. Because we service 115,000 employees, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. So what may be new to you, when we are running that comb through your business, we can say, hey, here's a gotcha, here's a mine, here's something we should be observant of to proactively get there. Anybody would rather know something's coming and being prepared for it versus being blindsided by something that you didn't know was right underneath your nose.
Well, what are we not asking you? What should the people watching Grindwise really take home with them tonight? I mean, we touched on a lot of stuff. For me, I'm like, this is absolutely this. You're crazy. You should have had a PEO, 127 employees.
Should have had
What's
one.
wrong with you?
I should have had one. Well, we don't want to let go of things.
I know.
You know what I mean? And,
I know.
and I assume that the hiring a payroll company was going to be astronomically expensive.
Will, what do you want to tell the people that are watching this right now? Maybe there's a common fear or something. Why should they contact? And finish it by telling them how they can contact you again.
Yeah, so really twofold, and it's in large part due to the relationship that we have as a group here, which is, hey, if you're serious about building your business credit, you don't want to PG another $1 million business this year. You want the peace of mind knowing that if the business went under, you wouldn't go down with it. That's 1A in this conversation. But 1B, and I think the compliance part is often overlooked because we've all heard, that'll never happen to me. That'll never happen to me.
I have the best employees in the world.
Absolutely. We're family. It would never happen.
They're loyal.
Well, look what family does when an inheritance comes along. Guess what an employee does when you terminate them unexpectedly? Mm-hmm. Family turns into a contentious fight or lawsuit at that point. So ultimately, from a comprehensive standpoint, credit reporting, HR compliance, benefits, we just saved a 40-man group in Oklahoma City $85,000 on their healthcare premiums.
Wow.
By doing business with us because we have that buying power we talked about. So whether your pain points, the credit, the benefits, a poor relationship with your existing payroll provider, number of reasons that we should talk regarding this. My contact info, again, 918-701-9920. We've got a website that we can go to as well. I'm sure that you guys can attach that to the podcast here, but the conversation can't hurt. I think there's only upside to it. So excited to visit with these business owners, show them a better way to do payroll, to get HR support, report that credit, and give them the peace of mind that they may not have today.
So today on Grindwise, we spoke with Will Badley, PEO expert extraordinaire. Will, we appreciate you coming in and visiting with us today. Brent, anything you want to say to Will before we do our signature?
I wish that I had a time machine so I could go back in time and recoup that $20,000 and hire Will to do our payroll. That's what I wish.
Well, if you guys are watching Grindwise today, Will gave his contact number. We always put people on the spot. We want to make sure that you don't just hear the information, but you can take action on the information. Again, this is Grindwise. Brent, Earl, we're out.